remember the woodpecker story I read to you from the newspaper about a couple of weeks ago? Okay. My name is Tim Sears. I teach at Anchorage Public School in Anchorage, Kentucky, which is right outside of Louisville, Kentucky. I have a first, second grade combination with ages 6 through 8, and the lesson today concerned probability and sampling, studying a woodpecker's habitat. The following information about the woodpecker is important as you think about how you might study this woodpecker and its habitat here in our room today. For most woodpeckers, just about any old dead tree will do. But a red cockaded woodpecker, which is about the size of a cardinal, won't make its hole unless it's a living southern pine. It also helps if a good fire burns out things below the pines. So sometimes fire's not a bad thing. Kentucky has about a dozen birds. How many is that?
12.
Okay. It's about 12 birds. There are about 8,000 to 12,000 left in the southern United States, but in Kentucky there are only 12. Their habitat has shrunk because of logging, cutting down trees, and development, people building homes and things like shopping centers and things like that that we need. And then this woodpecker is endangered. What does that mean?
It means that there's not very much of them left, and they have a lot of enemies.
Okay, they have a lot of enemies. Sarah Balcom.
There's still a few, but not a whole bunch. And it doesn't mean that they're like extinct in the whole world, but it's just extinct. They're almost extinct in Kentucky.
Almost extinct. What we're going to do this morning is we're really going to use our math skills to try and find out more about where this woodpecker lives and what makes it a good habitat for the woodpecker. And what we're going to do is I'm going to put you in groups of 3. And what did we do the other day to find out about the deer's habitat? We couldn't go there. We couldn't go out into the woods, but there were some things we could find out that made the deer successful.
We used the little cubes to draw out, and whatever color it was, it meant how much habitat and water and food and shelter it had. Okay. And we collected some data about that.
Okay. What did we call that, where we go in and we draw out of the bag to find out?
Sampling.
Sampling, okay. What do you think we're going to find when you guys go over in your groups? What is it that's in the habitat that they need? Bennett?
How much water they have.
Okay. What seems to be from Bennett from this information that I've given you so far? You've got some data here already.
How many trees they have left to live in?
Okay, Charlie Ray, can you add to that idea of the trees?
How many pine trees?
How many pine trees? All right. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to put you in your groups. The reason for trying to bring the woodpecker into a lesson about probability was that it connected in with kind of an overall theme for the year. It worked in well with the probability experiences that the children were having at the time. It also gave them a chance to explore a real-world problem. I'm going to give you a bag, and the things in that bag represent the things we might find in the woodpecker's habitat. Now, Ben, when you draw out of the bag, do you look inside for what's in there?
No, because then you would know what was in there, and then you would know how many each color there was. So
okay. So here are the jobs. Here are the jobs that you have at each table. There's going to be someone who draws out. There's going to be someone who records. And then we're going to have someone, we're going to stop at certain points to find out the data you're collecting. So at certain points, you're going to have a reporter to tell the rest of us what you found out. At this point, I'm not going to tell you what each one of those cubes represents until you get 10 picks. Okay. They were given cubes in a bag that represented things from that woodpecker's habitat. And then they did some sampling to find out what the characteristics were. One of the difficulties they had was they wanted to know right away what each cube represented. Let me give you a question to think about. There are 15 cubes in your bag. Okay? There are 15 cubes in there. Each of those have represented something in the woodpecker's habitat. And what does this data tell you that you collected? Could it help you figure out how many of each color are in the bag? Charlie Ray, how many greens did your group get?
16.
16. Okay. Table 1, how many greens?
Yeah. 8.
8. Okay. Table 2, how many greens? How many pines? Representing pine.
18.
18. Table 3.
15.
Now, you've kind of made some predictions on what you think. I'd like for you to dump the contents of your bag out to take a quick look at this.
You're right, only one orange. Yes, I'm right. One orange. And most, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 greens. We thought there were going to be less, yeah. Oh, yellow and red.
Was anybody surprised by what they saw? Any surprises?
Well, I was surprised because I thought, the red was, I think, the red only had 7 and the yellow had 16. And when we dumped the bag, the yellow and the red, there were only 3 yellows and 3 reds in the bag, and I was really surprised that we drew out the yellow a whole bunch of times.
Let's take a look up here at our data on the board. This is for every group. This is how many that they drew out of green. And this is how many they drew of yellow. What could we do to find out the total number for each group? What can we do? Charlie Ray?
You could take those numbers and add them up together.
All right, so here's what I want you to do. I want your group to go through and add up using what's up here on the board. Add up the totals for each group. Sarah Douglas, do you guys understand? You're going to go through and add up the total number of greens, total number of yellow, total number of blue, and so on, all through the colors. And then we're going to get back together and talk about what this means, okay? There are definitely different levels in using the calculator. Now, I even have some children still working through signs and symbols, and then some understand that they can clear out one mistake on the calculator, but they don't have to start over completely again. Plus 17. Okay. Plus
56.
56. Pencils down, calculators down. What would give us more information if somebody came in and said, well, now tell me about what really makes this a good habitat, what makes a good habitat for the woodpecker? If I came in, if the whole class come in and says, well, we have 401 draws, okay? So we're telling you what the woodpecker's habitat is based on 401 draws. Bo is saying, well, I can tell you about the woodpecker's habitat in 30 draws. Which one would you pick as giving you the most information?
401.
Why?
Because it's way more than 30, the number, and if you drew out that many times, then that would be way more times than you drew out 30, and then it would give you more information.
Okay. What kind of things did we find out today by our little experiment? Now, this is just an experiment.
We found out that there were a lot of pines there.
Okay.
A lot of pines.
All right. What about logging? If the Forest Service were going to make some kind of rule about logging, what might we be able to tell them? Alex? What could we tell them?
There shouldn't be a lot of logging, or it will kill all the birds, all the red-cockaded woodpeckers.
Okay, because what do they use the trees for? What are they?
Homes.
So if you're going to take a sampling, what has this told us? Not only have we found out a lot of things about the habitat, but we also found out that, is it always possible for you to get 400 draws? No, but can you take and combine them all together? Is that a good idea? Okay. What we're going to be doing next is the students are going to do another activity with sampling, and within the bags will be representative of different kinds of habitats that won't always be good for the woodpecker. And so they're going to have to compare the different results that they got and talk about what was a good habitat, or why was this one not particularly suitable for the woodpecker.
Why did Mr. Sears delay telling his class what the cubes represented? Discuss the relationship between mathematics and science in this lesson. How did Mr. Sears assess student understanding?